Striker Scorpion 82 is now sponsored by Warhammer Combat Cards, a card battle game featuring your favourite Citadel miniatures from the 40k universe. Build your army decks, dominate opponents in player versus player action, collect and upgrade cards to fit your strategy, improve their power and unlock unique traits. Choose from all 40k factions, take part in campaigns based on iconic 40k battles, rise to the top of the leaderboard and win glory. Free to download and play. Link is in the video description below or on the channel homepage, and by using the unique link it helps support the channel. Thanks and enjoy the game. Right, so welcome to this. It's sort of a new series here. I'm doing previously I was doing Tactica videos for individual units. They're all kind of going out of date now because we're moving over to 9th edition. So for 9th edition I wanted to do Tactica videos for units, but I've instead decided it might be a good idea just to combine multiple Tacticas into one video. So more of a resource just all pulled together into one video for you. So we're going to cover 5 units here for each of these videos. So this one here is Thousand Sons. So I've picked out 5 units that I would highly recommend for my own personal recommendation to use in your Thousand Sons army. So it's going to be a showcase. We'll see these units painted up. They're units that I use regularly in my Thousand Sons Chaos Space Marine army. I'll try and justify why I've picked them. We'll talk about stratagems, combinations, unit size, tactics, strategy that you can use for these units, and may even roll up some dice as well just to illustrate how they can be used. So if you agree with the choices, then by all means leave that in the comment section. If you don't agree and you think, well no, there's actually better choices that you can go for, then you're welcome to leave comments, because that means that other Thousand Sons collectors or people who are thinking of getting into Thousand Sons or don't have much experience, they can read your own suggestions and then they can use that for their games as well, because it's not set in stone which are the best units. It's all open for debate. I've got my own preferences and ones that I think are really good, but you may have some great options as well. So by all means share that in the comments section below. If you enjoy this video and you like the idea of this new series, then please hit the thumbs up just in the video description below. That just really boosts the video, really helps the channel out, and it's much appreciated. So I guess I'll bring these in by order of, if I was to list them, if I was to rank them. So we'll start with number 5 and then we'll finish with like the best option I think that you can go for. It's not been easy making these choices here. I haven't made the choices lightly. A lot of considerations gone into it here. Plenty of battlefield experience though of all of these units, so it's come from a lot of battlefield experience having used these models during games. So number 5 is Rubik Marines. So just turn them up on the page. I'll turn them up on the page just here. So Rubik Marines. I'll bring the unit in. It's a bit of a showcase. So here's the unit painted up. I currently run a unit of 10. So I think it's a tragedy if you decide to collect Thousand Sons and you don't paint Rubik Marines. I think it is a tragedy. It's a shame, because that is one of the strongest themed units and one of the most iconic units that you can have in a Thousand Sons list. So whether it's unit 10 or 2 units of 5 or whatever combination you want to go for, from a hobby perspective and enjoying collecting them, I try and encourage you to try and get Rubik Marines if you can. And I've ranked them here. I think they are a good option to go for. They are not going to win you the game, but I take them as a strong and dependable unit that will help support your army, and so therefore I've taken them and put them in at number 5 here as the option to go for. So they've got a number of things going for them. I've covered the points here for 9th edition. May as well give you the idea of what they cost. I currently run them as a squad of 10. So they're 18 points each, so 180 points. It's not a cheap unit you're going for, 180 points. The stave on the Sorcerer is now 0 points, you're not paying for that. I give them a Warp Flame pistol, usually, so you're paying 5 points for that. And I usually give one of the models a Soul Reaper cannon, just for a little bit more punch with their small arms firepower That's going to cost you 10 points. The Inferno Bolters are 0 points, so you're looking at 195 points for a unit of 10, but they should last you quite well on the battlefield. So really it's a standard Chaos Space Marine stat line, except they're a bit slower. They're a 5-inch move, so you need to choose carefully where you want to put them on the battlefield, or there is the option. I'll try and share all of the Tactica and why I choose them. Sometimes in a game, if you need to, you can bring them in via the webway, so you can deep strike them in. They can turn up anywhere on the battlefield, turn 2 onwards, as long as they're over 9 inches away from the enemy, which suits their rapid fire weapons fine, because their rapid fire range is 12 inches, so that works out okay. You got an aspiring sorcerer in amongst them. The stave's not too bad in close combat. It's +2 strength, yeah, AP -1, D3 damage, that's not too bad. Then a 3-up armor save. They're Thousand Suns Rubik Marines. They get a 5+ invuln save, which is useful. And they also come with a special rule called All is Dust. So it's +1 to your saving throws for Rubik Marines if the attack has a damage characteristic of 1. So much anti-infantry firepower that comes in against them is damage 1. And so you're on +1 to your saves. So a humble Marine all of a sudden is walking around with a 2+ armor save and a 5+ invuln save, which is pretty good. There's no minus to movement with their heavy weapons as well. So when they walk around with the Soul Reaper Cannon, there's no minus to the hit rolls with that either. The Soul Reaper Cannon is heavy 4, range 24, strength 5, -3, and 1 damage. So pretty good at cutting down infantry, even toughness 4 models, pretty potent at bringing them down. So you can kick out a decent amount of firepower these. The new rules, or updated rules for Chaos, it's rapid fire 1, Inferno Bolter, range 24, rapid fire 1, strength 4, AP -2, which is fantastic for a small arms weapon, and then damage of 1. If you keep them stationary, they can max out their firepower at long range, so they'll get 2 shots at range 24. So unit of 10 is going to kick out a fair amount of firepower. Then you can play one of the newer stratagems on them called Infernal Fusillade. It only costs you 1 command point. That's why it's sometimes worth taking a larger unit, because your stratagem goes a bit further when you're playing it on more models. If that unit remains stationary, you're already getting 2 shots at maximum range to get it to fire again, so it's another 2 shots. So you've got the potential of about 36 odd shots coming from them. It's pretty good for the infantry unit. So you've got combination of durability, pretty good anti-infantry firepower, and why they are very crucial in my Thousand Suns army is they provide a pretty strong screen to try and protect my psychers that go behind them. So I rate them for that. They're like a core unit to take for your Thousand Suns army. They're not going to win you the game. Their firepower is not going to destroy entire units or bring down vehicles and so on, and they're not going to go charging up the battlefield. They're pretty slow, but to sit there in the core of your army, you need that kind of stability. And even now in 9th edition, for camping out on top of objectives, it's going to be quite hard to root those out. Further enhancements you can go for with those, just to try and justify why I've, hobby-wise, narrative-wise, really good option to go for. That's why I'd rank them quite highly. And then also screening duty, pretty good. Anti-infantry firepower, pretty good. You can play Veterans of the Long War on them. Again, it just costs 1 command point. Choose an infantry unit and shooting or the fight phase, +1 to your wound rolls. So if you really need them to have even more bite with their shooting, give them all +1 to wound. Fight your shooting against Primaris Marines, 4s to wound becomes 3s to wound. To enhance them, you can use an Exalted Sorcerer or equivalent unit, granting reroll 1s. Their shooting, that can make a big difference when you've got a lot of shots coming through. You need 530 shots, there's 8 1s in there, they can all be rerolled. That's very, very helpful. Other enhancements that you can use on them is Prescience from a friendly psyker. It's +1 to all your hit rolls, so make them 3+ to hit, 2+ to hit with their shooting, and the potential of rerolling 1s to further enhance them. Then you can add also, so you can go for Glamour of Zinch, which is -1 to the opponent when they shoot them, so 3s to hit them becomes 4s to hit them, for example, just to try and protect them. And you can also cast, another power I use on them is Weaver of Fates, warp charge value of 6, 1,000 Suns unit within 18 of the Psyker. It's +1 to invuln save. So that 5+ invuln save becomes a 4+ invuln save. And if they're being shot at by really nasty heavy firepower, if the opponent really is trying to go after them to remove them from play, you've got a 4+ invuln save. Going to make it a lot more difficult just to cut them down with, you know, firepower that's got a big AP minus on it. So that is helpful as well. So you can, with a bit of help, make them very, very durable. I also run them in a Cult of Time detachment, and the Cult of Time detachment gains you access to Time Flux. This Psyker here can use it on his own unit, I believe. If it's manifested on a 5, which is very easy to manifest, you can restore a lost model to play, and if you score a 9 or more, it's D3 models restored to play. So you start taking heavy casualties during the game, and then you roll a 9+, you can start adding models back in, potentially, just gradually. I've seen it done in games. Early stages of the game, the opponent's gone after them, they've taken heavy casualties, like 3 of them left, and the game's quietened down a little bit, or I've moved them out of the way, or the opponent's gone after other targets, then quietly, slowly but surely start adding models back to the unit to make them closer to their original starting size. And that's drive your opponent mad doing that. And again, it's one of the advantages of taking a 10-man squad or a higher number squad, because it's harder to wipe them out entirely, so there's a chance then to try and restore them back to play. I'm just going to check that you can go for, yeah, cool. You can go for huge units. It doesn't seem to be a good idea now in 9th edition, just with the rules for blast weapons. We've got potential taking units 20 of them, I think. Unit 5, you can include additional 5 or additional 10 or additional 15. Yeah, so you can go for massive units if you really want to go for that, but it makes them a bit more of a target. So I think 10's a nice kind of size. You're avoiding some of the worst effects of blast by keeping them under 11, and yet you're making them quite a potent unit for the benefit of psychic powers and stratagems. I think it's a nice kind of size to go for with them. Strictly, I don't know, if you're going for Tzeentch themed, you'd maybe take a unit of 9, stick him with Tzeentch, but 10, it means you can use up all the models from the box set. And I believe the plastic box set, you get a unit of 10. So you're making the most use of that box set that comes through from Games Workshop. But that's number 5, is Rubik Marines. Not a devastating unit, one of your core dependable units I would harshly recommend. And collector wise, you know, if you're really looking to get the best out of your collection for 1,000 Suns, you've got to take a unit of Rubik Marines. They are the classic unit to take, and they are an incredible unit to take sculpt wise as well. They're beautiful models, and really you only appreciate the detail when you get a chance to see them up close. But when I got this kit come through and assembled and put them together, Games Workshop have done an incredible job of getting those models sculpted up and updated in plastic. So Rubik Marines, number 5. Option number 4. So number 4 in my ranking here is Airmen on disc of Tzeentch. So he's at number 4. Again, I don't think this unit's going to win you the game. Not a game-changing unit as such. I guess there's not many units out there that just will single-handedly win you the game. But as far as Psychers go, Airmen I think is a pretty solid choice. So with Airmen then, the stat line is pretty good. You've got Weapon Skill and Ballistic Skill 2+. 5 wounds, 4 attacks. It's not ready for any of those reasons you're taking Airmen. It's his psychic ability. And what you're getting is a psychic that can dish out lots of psychic powers and a bit more reliable than your regular kind of psyker. So that's why I've gone for Airmen here. He can manifest up to 3 psychic powers. There's not many psykers out there that can dish out 3 psychic powers in a turn, but he can, and there's not many that can deny 3 either. There's loads of psykers that you can take with 1,000 Suns. I have loads of them in my army, so denying psychic powers coming from the opponent's not too much of a problem. But with Airmen, he gets +1 to any psychic tests and deny the witch tests as well. So that's really helps out. The opponent's kicking out some psychic powers. You can deny them with Airmen, and then it's +1 to your total, just giving you that much more of a chance to try and stop the enemy psychic powers from coming through. I take him on a disc. Again, collector wise, heartily recommend you get a hold of the model. It's an incredible model, beautiful, real joy to paint this one, and one of the iconic options to take. So collector wise, you really want to try and take him to add into your Thousand Sons collection. And on the disc, the advantage of that is speed. So you want him to maneuver around into position to get his psychic powers lined up and ready to go, to get them in range and targeting the right kind of target. Sometimes you might need to swing around with smite to make sure you're lined up against the right target, because you're going against the closest visible enemy units. So speed is very, very useful. The other great thing is he can go 12 and then he can advance, and then it's not going to affect the psychic powers. So it's between 13 inches minimum if you roll a 1 for your advance, and up to 18 inches if you roll a 6. So it's nice and quick around the board, so it's well worth doing that. Useful for grabbing objectives and so on. He grants reroll 1s for friendly Thousand Sons units within 6. He buffs other units nearby. He has his own 4+ invuln save, so he's okay, but if he does get caught out, he can be brought down quite quickly. So the idea of Airmen is to keep him safe and to play him at his strength, and that is not firepower, not close combat, not durability, but it's those psychic powers, and just to try and get it so that he manifests as many psychic powers as possible in the game and stays alive for as long as possible, so that he can just continue manifesting deadly psychic powers. And usually I try and heap up mortal wound causing psychic powers on him. So the powers I usually go for on Airmen, and these recommendations I'm coming out in this video, try 1 or 2 of them and see if it works, and try and follow sort of the tactic I'm talking about here and experiment, see if it works for your own army. They may not fit into your own current system that you're running for your army, or they may fit in just nice, but if you are able to experiment, then that is good. I give him Infernal Gaze. Remember, all of these are on +1 to manifest. So Infernal Gaze, select an enemy unit within 18 or 24 inches for Thousand Sons of the Psychic, 3 dice, 4+ is mortal wounds. It's a 5, or in his case a 4 to manifest. It's an easy psychic power to manifest, and usually you're going to get a couple of mortal wounds being caused. You've got Smite as well, if I want to continue on causing mortal wounds. And then take Zinch's Firestorm as another option for mortal wounds. It's a 7, but it's a 6 for him with his +1. Nice range on it, range 18 or 24 for Thousand Sons. I can pick any unit I want, even a character. It's 9 dice, any 6s, it's mortal wounds, just multiple mortal wounds, constantly kicking those out. And then I do take 1 kind of power to help out the army, that's Death Hex. It's range 12 of the cycle, range 18 for Thousand Sons. It's an 8 to make it go off, so it's a good idea to put it on Airmen because he's on +1. So it's a 7. If it does, it strips away that target's invuln save, and that's quite game changing. A crucial enemy unit, say Gilliman for example, if you're able to take his invuln save away, then that is big. So it's a decent power. It's quite hard to manifest, so I put it onto Airmen because he's got a higher chance of making sure that power goes off. So that's the powers that I use on him. Really, that's pretty much all there is to Airmen. Close combat, firepower, that kind of thing, not really a good idea. It's just being patient with him, keeping him alive, and then just kicking out the psychic powers faithfully each turn, and then able to cause as much damage as possible. The value of him is seen as the turns go by, not really just a one-turn wonder, but more of a measured damage coming through from Airmen. So that's number 4 for the Thousand Sons. Next up is number 3, and that is Mauler Fiends. So this unit here isn't a Thousand Sons themed sculpt. You can take Mauler Fiends for the different Chaos Legions. I've painted mine up turquoise and gold, just to obviously match in with the Thousand Sons, but you can use these for Black Legion and so on, and bring those into different Chaos Space Marine lists. But they work well, I think, for my Thousand Sons army. So the Mauler Fiends are in. They're worth their weight in gold, literally, I guess, with their with their gold armor. But the way I use them in my army, I run 3 of them, and I use them aggressively. I push them up against the opponent. There's no firepower with these. Their whole aim is for close combat, and they go on the rampage searching for any kind of target. So vehicles, they can charge into them. Medium, light, heavy infantry, charge into those as well. Enemy characters, enemy monsters, you can throw a Mauler Fiend in. You can expect at least something to come from them. Can they change the game? Yes, if they get in and cause trouble. I've seen 2 Mauler Fiends gang up on Imperial Knight and bring it down in 1 round of combat. They have the potential to do that, for sure. So, they're built like tanks. Toughness 7, 12 wounds. They can auto-restore a wound at the start of each of their turn. Each turn coming through, so you're down to 1 wound left, you can restore a wound. That helps just to add to their durability as well. There's been times in games where I've had one that's almost died, it's had 1 or 2 wounds left, and then a few turns later it's back up to 6, 7, 8 wounds. With help from some psychic powers as well. Strength 6 as standard, 4 attacks as standard with that. That can all be improved. Movement 10, so they're actually quite quick across the board. Movement 10 is nice and fast. I'll bring in the other 2. There's the other one. And you play 3 of these. I would recommend you go for 3. If you take 1, it's there, but it's the opponent can see it and destroy it, and it's gone. You take 2, if the opponent kills 1 of them, you've only got 1 left. You take 3, all of a sudden, that is a lot for the opponent to try and deal with. 3 lots of 12 wounds. If you lumped the stats together, that's 36 wounds the opponent to try and get through. Ability to restore wounds. 5+ invuln save as well. Many a time that's blocked las cannons and nasty firepower from coming through, so decent protection on them. Then in close combat, I go for the Lasher Tendrils. It gives you an extra 6 attacks at strength of the user, AP -2 and 2 damage. So if you do plunge into infantry, it's especially useful. Primaris Marines, you're going to cut those down, 2 damage every time. And then the Mauler Fiend Fists, you'll be fighting at strength 12 because you're doubling your strength. AP -3, so you can cut through the armour nice and quickly, and then it's guaranteed 3 damage every time, which is way better than D3 and just reliable. You know what kind of damage you're going to be causing with 3 damage. So big fan of the Mauler Fiend. Obviously no firepower coming from these, but your opponent cannot ignore them because they can plunge in and cause trouble. So enhancements for them, similar to the Rubik Marines, I can, with help from Psychers, I can give them +1 to their invuln save, so 4+ invuln save. I can play Diabolic Strength on them. On one model, giving it +2 strength, so that means that really helps out the strength when they plough into vehicles. Your Mauler Fiend Fists then come through at strength 16, so if you plunge into an Imperial Knight, you're on 2s to wound, AP -3 and 3 damage, gets you an extra attack as well, so that's all useful. You can play Prescience on them, I believe, so +1 to hit rolls. If you know the opponent's going to be shooting at them, you can play the Psychic Power that gives you -1 to the hit rolls against them. Can improve their invuln save, I mentioned that already, so bumping them up to a 4+ invuln save. And then Temporal Manipulation is another power I have, which restores D3 wounds. So potentially you can auto-restore 1 wound, and then in the Psychic phase, restore D3 extra wounds on top of that. So you can really just push them right back up, within a couple of turns, back up to close to the original starting wounds that they had at the beginning of the game. And then the other one that I like to play is Warp Time. So make sure you don't advance, you move 10, warp time goes off, move 10 again, all of a sudden you've moved 20 inches across the board and you can line yourself up for a decent charge. So like a cannonball across the table, and the idea is that they smash into the enemy and cause havoc, which they certainly are capable of doing. They'll happily fight against pretty much anything and be difficult enough to remove. Not impossible to remove. Usually in games they'll be destroyed, but that's because I've put them out deliberately as the front line of my army, and to absorb the opponent's attention and their heavy firepower, and then it's taken away from my main screening units to protect my Psychers. That's the idea of them, is that they are a kind of throwaway. I wouldn't waste them, but they are there to be thrown out into the worst of the fighting, and they're in the nastiest of firepower and so on the opponent has to offer, is to be diverted against them. And I have to play aggressive. If I just hold them off and stick them in a corner, the opponent's not going to go after them, so I have to play them aggressive to force the opponent's hand. So that's the idea with the Mauler Fiends. I've sort of shared all the little enhancements and bonuses that you can use just to push them up to make them better. And then you can play, I must mention these stratagems. So They don't get Death to the False Emperor, which is a shame, but I believe they do get the extra attack on the charge for Chaos Space Marines. And then Demon Forge is the best option to go for with these. Only costs you 1 command point. Use it in the shooting or fight phase. Obviously the fight phase for these. You select 1000 Suns Demon Vehicle. Reroll failed hit and wound rolls for that model until the end of the phase. That's incredible. 1 command point to reroll all your hits and wounds is fantastic, and that really does make the difference if you're trying to actually destroy a target in one round of close combat. So you start stacking up all those bonuses, Mauler Fiends can actually become very, very potent indeed. They're not just a distraction, but they can be a mighty destructive force as well. So I heartily recommend them. I like the way mine have come out as well. Here, painted up in the turquoise and gold kind of colour scheme. I've changed the basing around just to mix them up a bit. If you like the way these models have come out, there's over on the Plus channel there's painting tutorials. If you subscribe to the Plus channel, you get access to all of them, or each individual video is available for rent or purchase. Rubik Marines, there's a tutorial for them, and there is also actually a tutorial for these, the Mauler Fiends, one of the in-depth painting tutorials just to show you how to paint a bigger project, and also for the Zangors as well, which I feature in my army. I've actually done a separate painting tutorial for them as well. So check out the Plus channel, links in the video description below if you're interested in those painting guides to help you through. I cover everything: the basing, priming, washes, colours, highlighting, transfers, the whole lot covered in that video. So that's number 3. Number 2 is your standard Demon Prince for the 1000 Suns. Each of the legions has a slight variation on the Demon Prince. I think the 1000 Suns one is good, but then with a bit of help, a few combinations, you can make it really, really good. So it's the first entry, second entry here. So Demon Prince of Tzeentch. So what you're getting with this is a character that you can hide and protect, potentially with the 9th edition with Lookout, Sir, Raw and so on. He's got 8 wounds, just falls under that threshold for characters, so immediately quite difficult to try and get rid of if you're hiding him properly. Tough enough, toughness 6, strength 7, weapon skill, ballistic skill 2+, he'll grant reroll 1, so for any 1000 Suns units nearby, 3 up armor save, and then for Tzeentch, the usual invuln save for a Demon Prince in the legions, different legions, is a 5+, but for Tzeentch it is a 4+, so a nice decent 4+ invuln save available. The combination I take for him, he's 185 points. I give him wings, as seen on this Necro Sphinx model here from the old Warhammer system of Tomb Kings. So wings just makes him a bit quicker. Instead of movement 8, it's movement 12. Can make a big difference if you need him to get somewhere quickly. And then I give him the twin Malefic Talons, again as sculpted here. These weapons that he's armed with will suit the twin Malefic Talons just nicely. That costs you 15. No, it costs you 10 points to say that now. So, no, I think it's just double check for 9th edition. It is 15 points. Yeah, 2 Malefic Talons is 15 points. It's a flat 200 points for this model. But if you take 2, you get an additional 3 attacks. So you get 4 attacks plus 3, 7 attacks, loads of attacks. Plus on the charge for Chaos Space Marines, you've got 8 attacks here, at 2s to hit. He can benefit from his own reroll 1 bonus, so 8 attacks, 2s to hit, rerolling 1s. Fantastic amount of attacks. And the Malefic Talons gives him strength, the user, so strength 7, but AP -2 and 2 damage. So he's really good at cutting down Primaris, which obviously is a lot of that now in 40k. So he's quick, durable, pretty good in close combat. There's a Psyker as well. It can manifest 2 psychic powers and deny 1 as well. What I usually go for with him for psychic powers is Gaze of Fate. So that means it's quite easy to manifest. It's like a 5 to manifest it, and it means that you get a reroll at some point during your turn. So whether that's reroll a hit roll, a damage roll, an invuln save roll, saves you having to use a command reroll and saves your command points. But also you can stack it up with command rerolls as well. So you say you've got 2 on his invuln saves. He's fouled some saves, some laser cannon shots have come through. He's fouled 2 of them. You could command reroll 1, and then you could use Gaze of Fate reroll on another. So you can stack them up to make them more potent as well. So that's one psychic power. There's plenty of you can choose from. Gaze of Fate I found useful, and then Treason of Tzeentch is another option. I play that one for fun. You try and manifest the power, beat the leadership of the opponent target, and then you actually hijack their unit in the shooting, charge and fight phase. So if that goes off, you know, you've got a Space Marine ironclad dreadnought and you take control of it and then plunge it into his own battle line. It's good fun. So that's a good one to go for. Maybe not the best options. I sort of spread my psychic powers out, so I've had to choose some more obscure ones just to fill out all of the slots, but that's the ones I go for with him. So then to enhance the Demon Prince, so 4+ invuln save is okay, but I make him the actual Warlord, and then with the Warlord you get access to Warlord traits, and I give him Otherworldly Presence, or Prescience. Improve your Warlord's invuln save by 1 to a maximum of 3+. Instead of 4+, you go up to 3+. That 3+ invuln save, which I think is going to be increasingly rare in 9th edition, is a very, very powerful thing. 3+ invuln save. You know, your opponent can fire the nastiest of firepower, but you can block 2/3 of it with that 3+ invuln save. You combine that with a command reroll, Gaze of Fate reroll. You can start making this target very, very solid indeed. So you've got a solid unit that can be hidden behind screens, can dish out psychic powers, and is actually pretty good in close combat. Then that's not too bad at all. Yeah, really good. And then the final benefit that I give to him, I go for Cult of Time, and I give him a relic from Cult of Time called Hourglass of Manat. That means that in the phase that he's destroyed, he's guaranteed to resurrect with D3 wounds remaining. He just needs to be placed over an inch away from enemy units, and then as close as possible to the point where he fell on the battlefield. So if he's gunned down the shooting phase, there's no roll. He's guaranteed to get back up, and then you just restored with D3 wounds restored, or if he's cut down in the fight phase, just gets back up again, and that is super powerful. So now you've got loads of durability on that Warlord. So difficult to bring him down in the first place, and then guaranteed to get back up again. I think it makes him very, very potent. So a real core choice for my army. And again, he's in close combat. He's not going to utterly wipe out entire units, but with that durability, he can continue on fighting and continue on causing wounds and trouble for the opponent. So all in all, I think a pretty solid choice, and not too bad in points. 200 points, you're getting a pretty solid all-round unit. So he's in. That's number 2. So number 1, the best choice I think you can go for tons of reasons, is Exalted Sorcerers. 1, 2, I have 3. When you buy these from Games Workshop, you get a box of 3 with loads of different heads and options and arms. You can create your own options, 1 of them on a disc and 2 on foot. You could say this one's on a disc, but he's sort of jumping in the air, so you could say he's on a disc if you need to. But there's 2 on foot there technically, and then 1 on the disc of Tzeentch. I'd say out of all the box sets that I bought for the Thousand Suns, this was the best one. You know, from a collecting point of view, beautifully sculpted models, you know, utterly incredible. Loads of different options to go for, real joy to paint those up, and 3 very individual looking models for sure. So that's those 3, and again, these aren't they're not units that are going to single-handedly win you the game, but if you can keep them alive, they are very, very valuable to have in your army. So from a collector's point of view, I'd heartily recommend them. These especially, and especially the Rubik Marines, those 2 as boxes. If you're looking to perhaps start off, what do I do? 1000 Suns, where do I start? 3 brilliant sculpted Psychers plus the 10 Rubik Marines is an excellent place to start, and you've got yourself some of the core choices for 1000 Suns. And then what I've chosen here is some very solid units to take as well. So grant reroll 1s to friendly units nearby. Each Psyker. Better than your standard Chaos Sorcerer. They're a better version. What you get is you get more wounds. 5 wounds each, which is pretty good. 4 attacks each, which is really, really good. Plus an extra attack on the charge. Their weapon skill and ballistic skill is 2+, so in close combat, 2+ to hit, rerolling 1s for their own ability. Actually not too bad. And if you start getting multiple Exalted Sorcerers ganging up on a target, they can start kicking out some nasty damage, because their stave is +2 strength, so fighting at strength 6, AP -1, it's D3 damage, so they're not too bad in close combat themselves. I usually give them a Warp Flame Pistol for a bit of extra firepower at close range, and whilst they're fighting in close combat as well. The main reason for taking them isn't for close combat, although it can be pretty good if you're able to use them to mop up enemy targets, but the main reason is their psychic ability. You're getting the ability to manifest 2 psychic powers and deny 1 psychic power each turn. Now, one of them by themselves is alright, but in my 2000 points list for 9th edition, I take 3. And now you've got 6 psychic powers available, 3 denies available, and you can spread these out in amongst your battle line. The characters, you can hide them, put them behind your Rubik Marines, hide them behind the Mauler Fiends, and so on. Difficult for the opponent to get rid of, and they are the most valuable to you if you're able to keep them alive, kicking out those psychic powers from turn 1 all the way through to turn 5. And if you do that and you have multiple Exalted Sorcerers on the board and constantly just kicking out those psychic powers, and you keep them alive, don't let them be brought down too early, then that's when the value of them can be seen. Just multiple smites, multiple psychic powers being used, that's when you get your best value for having purchased these and put them into your army. So individually, you know, people say, well, why would you put an Exalted Sorcerer as the #1 choice? But when you take a collective of them and you're able to keep them alive, then the value of them really does come through, and they're hidden, they're well protected, and then if you do need them in close combat, they can cause some surprises. Remember, their weapon skill's 2+, and it's rerollable, and so those 4 or 5 attacks on the charge, they start to combine that with others charging in as well. There's been times where they've caused upsets even in close combat, but that's sort of your secondary option with them. The main thing is solid, reliable psychic powers from turn 1 all the way through to turn 5, and even that ability matches in with the whole theme of Thousand Suns to dominate the table through psychic powers from multiple psychers, and that's the theme I've gone for with my Thousand Suns army, and I just couldn't do that without the help of these Exalted Sorcerers. And the great thing now for 9th edition is they have come down in points. The stave used to be 8 points, it's now 0, and then the actual base cost of these has been dropped as well. So now more than ever, I'd heartily recommend you go for Exalted Sorcerers. So multiple reasons why. So as I said, individually you can't expect too much from them, but you start getting a collective of them working together and you're able to keep them alive throughout the game, then the value of those is seen. So that's the multiple Tactica video here. I've sort of picked out my best 5 units for the Thousand Suns, and then we've discussed how to apply them in 9th edition. If you agree with the choices that I've made, or you want to change the ranking and the order around, and leave that in the comment section below. If you disagree with one of the choices I've made, then leave that in the comment section and say why. Or if I've missed out units specifically for Thousand Suns we're thinking of, and trying to think of units that fit in with the theme of Thousand Suns. If there's units that I should have chosen and should have put in, and you think are more potent than the options that I've come up with here, then by all means leave that in the comment section below. I've missed out plenty of units here, not talked about Hellbrutes or Occult Terminators or Zangor Enlightens. The Utilith Vortex Beast is an option that people have said is very good. So check out the comment section, see what other Thousand Suns players are saying. But in my opinion, at the moment, I think for 9th edition, these 5 are great options to go for, and the #1 choice to go for is the Exalted Sorcerers. That's the video. Keep a look out for more videos in this series. If you've enjoyed this initial video here and you like the idea of the series, then please hit the thumbs up. It really gives the video and the channel a boost. Thanks for watching, and tune in next time.